Keys you Grisnam, keys you Kukit, keys you Quiet. Kapiniskas. Welcome back, everyone, to another Warrior Wednesdays. I'm your host, Kenshuke Tesmiet, also known as Peter Not So White. And some of you may know, I recently went to an event here in Vancouver, British Columbia, on the unceded Coachella territories of the Musqueam, the Squamish, and the Tsleil-Waututh people. And I went to an event that was held by a pretty popular individual, and I've actually read one of his books, and I listened to his latest book, The 8 Rules of Love, and his name is Jay Shetty, and he was a monk. He, at a very young age, 19, 20, I think it was even 18, 19, 20, he took off to become a full-time monk. And he learned a lot of skills, learned a lot of life, knowledge, and how to navigate through life. And then he left and started using his wisdom to help other people. And he wrote a book on love. And if you've tuned in before to my previous podcasts, I grew up with a lot of hardships in my life. I didn't have my blood parents in a lot of my life, but I knew who they were. I knew who my dad was. I knew who my mom was. My mom made more of an effort to get to know me, to create a relationship. And even to this day, she just recently decided to take her life back. And she has struggled with addiction through most of her life. And she's just recently, this is after many, many attempts of trying to get sober, went to rehab, and she is over 90 days sober from alcohol, and she even gave up weed, of cannabis, because she knew that it was a trigger for her to drink. So I'm super proud of her for that. And during the Jay Shetty event, it was to do with love, and it was a kind of a tour, kind of not just promoting his book on love, but he was giving a lot of useful tips, and he was bringing up people, and the show was truly amazing. I would go back hands down. I would kind of change a few things about it, but I would honestly 100% go back to the show. And there was this one part in the show, and this was after the intermission. He got a bunch of people, he asked some questions and got people to raise their hands, and then he just kept asking more and more questions, and at the end of these questions, the people who had their hands up still, he went around the arena and picked an individual. And he picked this girl who recently had a fight with her best friend, and they hadn't spoken in months now. And he brought her up on the stage, kind of figured out what was going on, and he brought up some really, really good things. And this one particular thing he was talking about with this girl, with this lady, was don't wait too long, because we truly don't know how much time we have left on this earth. And he got this girl to grab her phone, to put it on speakerphone, and he wanted her to call her best friend to apologize, to tell her, that she misses her and she loves her and these things. And then he started going off and talking about, about how people in the audience, if they're going through situations like this, don't wait to tell people you love them. Don't wait for the perfect moment, because that perfect moment will never come. And he said, if there's someone in your life you love, don't wait any longer. If you're in a fight like this person, or situations has happened, just call that person and tell them you love them. And then it really hit me, and I started to tear up sitting there. And it reflected me, and it reminded me on my situation where I actually waited too long to do these things. And back in August 2021, my father had passed away. And I was doing work with my counselor, my therapist, about getting, overcoming things and getting the courage to reach out to him, to talk to him, to try to hear a story, to understand why, he adopted me as a baby when he did. And I had this big plan that, I was going to do it after the pandemic. I was going to take a trip back home to my community of Yakanuki, to sit down with him and to hear a story and to just listen to him if he was willing to talk, and just to tell him, after everything, I don't hate him. I don't have any hard feelings against him. I understood that he had a hard childhood as well, and he was just using the tools that he was given in his life. And my family was severely affected by residential schools, and I was gonna wait until the pandemic was uplifted to talk to him, to tell him these things, to listen to him. And I was working up northern British Columbia, in Kitimat, British Columbia, and they fly you in, and they bus you in for 2 weeks, and they house you up in lodging. It's called camp work. And I remember that because I got into camp, I had just checked in, I got my room, and then I get a phone call from my stepmom, his partner, which I thought was very odd, because I never talked to her, and for her to call me I was like, okay, something's up. I have to answer this. And that's when she had told me that my dad had passed away. And I just was like, wow. At first I was in shock, and I still am. But I'm still learning how to grieve and grow and learn and to become a man that would make him proud. And I waited too long to tell him that. And my foster sisters, my adopted sisters, they're going through the same situation with their dad, and they don't talk with him. And I try to explain to them, like, hey, there's going to be a point in time in your life where you're going to kick yourself in your ass for doing this, for holding onto a grudge, for not allowing him in your life. You know, if it wasn't for him, you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be here today. No matter how much you despise them right now, your parents, your father, your mother, your grandparents, whoever, you would not be here if it wasn't for them. And that's why I have no animosity, no hate, no anger to my parents, to my dad, to someone who, when I was a little boy, where I grew up in Creston, it was a very small town, he ended up finding a new wife, and that stepmom who he's with today, and he ended up having a little boy with her, which is my brother. And he would see us around town, my sister and I, and he would act like he didn't know us. You know, he would look right at us and just like nothing there. He would act like he didn't know who we were, just would keep walking by. And as a little kid, you know, that confuses you because you know who your parent, like I knew who my parents were, I knew who my dad was, I knew he was my dad. And after all that stuff, you know, I still have no hate towards him. I still have no anger. And whatever you're going through in your situation, if you have, you know, a rocky situation with your parents, just realize that they were doing the best they could with what they have or what they had. And it may not be the best ideal situation for you, but, you know, I talk about it, that everything happens for the right reasons. And, you know, I wouldn't be this person I am today if I didn't get adopted out, if I didn't have all those hardships, if I didn't have to grow, if I didn't have to learn, you know, if I didn't have to go through all these things, all these struggles. I wouldn't be who I am today without that. And I'm still finding out my dad's side of the family. You know, I know where I come from. That's my Tunacha side. And, you know, I do have gratitude for that. For knowing, you know, knowing where I come from. But not knowing anything about his parents. I don't know nothing about my grandma on his side. Or my grandpa. Or I don't know anything to do with any of my family there. And it's just like a black hole, which it feels like to me right now. And there's a lot of unanswered questions because I waited too long. So don't wait. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Because we truly don't know how much time we have left on this world, on this planet, in this form. And I'm a believer of energy. Anything that gives life has energy. And I believe that when we pass on, yes, our physical body leaves. It goes back to the ground. It gives it its nutrients. It provides Mother Earth with what it needs. And our spirit, our soul, transforms into another energy. I'm a true believer of that. So, I do believe that if I pray, that answers may come one day. They may not. But if you have that gift to call someone up, doesn't matter who started the fight, what happened, just make amends. Because you never know how long that person's going to be on this earth. You don't. And one day you might regret it. That you could have called them up. You could have said something. You could have let your ego go. And you could have just squashed it and had that time with them. Don't do what I did and try to wait for that perfect moment, because it may never come. And all this hit me just from that single event at that Shetty. There was a lot of growth there. There were a lot of things that I needed to hear. And I still do. I work on myself consistently, and I feel like it's going to be a never-ending thing until I leave this earth. But now, my father, the way he was towards me and my sister and I, it showed me what I don't want to be for my kids. It shows me what not to do. It shows me who I need to become in order to break those cycles. So one day when I do have kids, they don't ever have to experience the hardships that I did. They're going to have that trauma instilled with them in their genetics. I know that. But they're never going to have to endure what I had to as a kid. As my sister too, what she had to endure as a kid. And they'll know what it is like to have a father figure in their life. Because, we wake up alive. But that same day, an event can happen. And we might not be here, One day we're here, the next moment we could be gone. Just like that. And life keeps going on. No matter who you are, no matter what you've done in this world, the world isn't going to stop for you. But what we do in life and how we affect people, they may never forget who you are. And that's what I hope one day, I know I've already helped people with their life, in their situations. And I know there's people out there that I will never ever meet that I've truly affected in a positive way. And that's what I want to do every day. It's just help one person in some form. So I hope this podcast, this episode, gives you time to reflect on maybe a situation that you're in right now with someone that you love, that you got in a fight with, that you're not talking with. Just imagine how you would feel if you heard this podcast and knew what to do but never did. And then say in a couple days from now, or a week from now, or a month from now, you get a text message or a phone call saying that that person is gone. That person has left us. They're on their journey to the happy hunting grounds. Just imagine how you would feel knowing that you had that opportunity. I just pray that you don't do that. You don't go down that road. And you use this advice to spark new relationships, to mend relationships, to fix things, because we never know how much time we have left. So with that, I'm going to end this podcast. Sukani for tuning in. Gagas. And I'll catch you next Wednesday. And remember, everything always happens for the right reasons. Take care.